Good morning, Houston County teachers. We hope that you are excited for this training today. We're loving that you're using the chat already. My name is Megan Spagner, and I am one of your curriculum integration specialists. And with me today on the team, I've got Larry Wadsworth, Lynn Hawkins, Kristen Honegger, and Mike False. And today we are going to be teaching you a ton of content. We hope that you can take one thing and use it today. It's going to be a lot, and please, please, please be patient with us as we work through any technical issues that we may have. We are live streaming on YouTube, which I think is pretty cool. But let's talk about our content today. So we're going to go over working in Google Docs, working a little bit with forms, using YouTube videos. We're going to cover Zoom. We're going to talk about that, and then virtual field trips. So as we get going, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and we are going to try to monitor that as best as we can while teaching. And if you have any other questions or we don't get to your question, please feel free to email us at cis@htbe.net. Now, this session will be recorded, but it won't go live to view until the end of trainings on Friday. Now, we're going to hear about some expectations for this school year, and please note that one of the things that we tell you is about MAPS testing. You have actually 4 weeks, not 2 weeks, so just keep that in mind as you're viewing that. And after that, you'll hear from one of our very own Houston County teachers and how she used a combination of digital resources, and then I'll be back on to talk to you about working in Google Docs. Here are our Houston County instructional expectations for this school year. All schools should administer MAP the first 2 weeks of school. No graded assignments should be submitted to tools such as ClassDojo and Edmodo. These tools should only be used for communicating messages and reminders to parents and students. Pre-K students do not have the option to participate in distance-only learning. Secondary content coordinators are creating Google Classroom lessons for middle and high school courses. Elementary content coordinators are creating lessons using Google Drive for elementary teachers to pull lessons into their Google Classrooms. If schools close after face-to-face school has started, the Teaching and Learning Department will provide schools with guidelines for instructional minutes and grading. Now we know this school year is going to look a lot different than normal. We'll have a blended learning model with our face-to-face teachers. If you're an elementary face-to-face teacher, you'll be required to use Google Classroom for a minimum of 1 to 2 times a week and use school-level online learning programs such as iReady, iStation, and Star Reading. For our middle and high blended learning teachers, you'll be required to use Google Classroom a minimum of 2 times a week and use school-level online learning programs. For our distance learning teachers at the elementary level, you'll deliver instruction through Google Classroom and video conferencing along with iReady. Our middle and high distance learning teachers will assign lessons through OdysseyWare and deliver support lessons through video conferencing. Should we start face-to-face and transition to online learning for school closing, teachers will use the plans described for face-to-face blended learning along with video conferencing support lessons. These are our Houston County instructional expectations for this school year.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Caparelli and I'm a 4th grade teacher at Langston Road Elementary. I just wanted to share something with you that I love doing in Google Classroom, and that's book clubs. In my classroom at school, my students always love to get together and talk about the books they have been reading in book clubs, and so I incorporated that into Google Classroom by using Epic Books, which is an online platform that's free for teachers, and it has tons of leveled books for students that are available online. I'll teach a mini lesson to my students, and then I would send them to breakout rooms virtually to meet together with the members of their book club. To guide their instruction, they would use a Google Slides activity that they would jot their thinking throughout the week as they read, and this also helps guide their discussions. My students always love to get together virtually to talk about the books that they had been reading. It really promoted that classroom community outside of the walls of the classroom.
Thank you, Tiffany Caparelli, for that testimony. I hope that y'all enjoyed that. And y'all, again, I'm going to reiterate that MAPS testing is not a 2-week time frame, it's a 4-week time frame. So let's get started and dive on into working with Google Docs. Now, some of you may have been using Google Docs already, and in the chat, I want you to go ahead and tell me, how have you used Google Docs already. You may have done an assignment in Google Classroom. You may be using it to just do your lesson plans. Let us know how you're already using that, and hopefully you can gain some more resources or ideas today as we work through some of this. So a couple of ideas that we already have for you are using it as a shared writing place. You can actually have students and teachers collaborate in Google Docs, and I will show you how to do that. Writing prompts, planning templates, choice boards, rubrics. I'm loving to see assignments in Google Classrooms, WebQuest. Love all of these ideas coming in. Awesome. So lesson plans. Now, today we're going to kind of show you a very specific way to use them. And so on my screen right now, you are seeing an example of what's called a HyperDoc. And we have a couple of resources that we'll drop in the chat in just a little bit. But this is a really easy way to give your students multiple links to go to or to experience or work with. And it's not so much going back and forth in Google Classroom. I know that I would add a ton of links to Google Classroom for my kids in an assignment, and instead of them going in and out of those links, maybe you create a HyperDoc so that they can easily access those in one place and then have one assignment to turn in versus multiple assignments or multiple different things that you got going on in Google Classroom. So here's a really good example. It's an elementary example. You just click here and it accesses different links. So YouTube, here's Starfall, ThingLink, different ways you can pull in anything into a Google Doc. Here's a higher grades example. I love how this one is set up. Wonder Play Review. It gives the kids very specific directions, and then it gives them to choose a tool to solve a problem using one of the three options. So just a great example of how to use Google Docs instead of just typing on it for writing. It gives a way for kids to interact with the content that you are trying to get across to them. Just other examples, I'm just showing you a few, and then we're gonna hop in. So I really liked this one. I'm not gonna go into all of this and how you use that. We're just going to create another one. Now, another example that Mike has shared with us is a rubric. You can create writing rubrics in here or reading rubrics, any kind of rubric, and you can actually pull those into Google Classroom. There's a really neat feature over there, and if y'all are interested in that, we can share that a little bit later. All right, so let's talk about how to create a Google Doc. So I'm going to open a new tab, so I'm going to go Control-T, and that opened a new tab up here for me. There's several ways to open a Google Doc. I know that you can go through your Google Drive, you can come up here to your Waffle, but my favorite way is saying doc.new, and it's going to go ahead and open up a new doc. So you can do this with anything. You can do it slides. And up here, the very first thing I'm going to take care of is to rename it Doc Demo. And I'm going to click on the white space over here, and you can notice this is cloud-based, so it's saving to your drive. Now, this is something you could teach to your kids. That would be very beneficial for them, I think. And then come over here, and I don't know if y'all see this folder, but I have a move. So if you watch our basic training from this morning, we go over how to use Google Drive, and you can come in here and put it wherever you need to or want to. So you can kind of keep your Google Docs or your HyperDocs all organized in a nice, neat way. All right, so the very first thing that I want to show you is to come over here. Let's talk about this page. I have an example right here where Mike has a landscape view, and most of these other ones are portrait view. So let's come over here. Mine's portrait right now, so I want to change it to a landscape view. I'm going to come over here to File, and then, oops, there we go, Page Setup. And here you can change your margins, you can change it to landscape. I'm going to keep it on portrait for right now, but maybe I want to change the color so that my kids make it a little bit more fun for them. I'm going to choose a color in this color wheel, or you can come over here and do custom colors. So I'm going to choose this color and click, well, actually before I click OK, you can, if you have a very specific template or a way to set up your pages, you can set that as your default as well. So anytime you open a new doc, your default will set up the page. Okay. All right, so I've changed the background. I've changed the size. If I needed to change the size, I could. Now let's come up here. You can double click up here and change to headers. And I'm actually going to make this a little bit bigger for y'all. Let's see if that works. So I can come up here and type, this is my header. You may want to use this place for instructions instead of having that in Google. You may want to have it in Google Classroom as the assignment, but you may want to pull those instructions over here too for your kids. Just totally depends. So you can put your header in there. You can have a different first page, and if you click on options, you can change a few things. So I am going to put a footer on here, and I'm going to say created by your CIS team. So maybe you want to give your kids a little motivational quote, whatever, at the bottom. Now, it's over here. I'm a huge motivational quote person. Okay, so over here to the left, I don't really like that. I'm going to put it in the center. Y'all know these buttons. You know this. If you don't, you can hover over it and see what these buttons are. I do want to center align it. These are very similar, especially these, the formatting options for text. Those are very similar to what? What makes you think of this? I'm hoping you're typing in the chat Microsoft Word, because if you're not, we gotta talk a little bit more. Okay, so here we go. These are left align, center align. Y'all know the drill. So I'm gonna click out of here. Yes, I see y'all putting that word in there. Okay, so I have used headers and footers at this point. You can use page numbers in the same. Now I right-clicked or I double-clicked in these. I can also come up here to format and headers and footers. So with Google, you have a couple of ways to do things. You have a right-click menu, you have your menu options up here, and sometimes you have them in this toolbar right here. So format, again, headers and footers. And you can change the margins here and everything that we just said. So click apply. All right, so that's kind of how you set up your Google Doc. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm actually going to pull in, I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to come over here and kind of give you a few things to work with in here. So with a Google Doc and HyperDoc, it's basically linking things that your kids can interact with. So I know a lot of, especially our younger grades, you really wanted one place for your kids to work in instead of going in and out of Google Classroom and going to all these different places. You can actually set up a lesson with the connection, the teach and learn, and engagement activity, and give your kids everything they need to know for a virtual lesson. You could actually start using this in your computer lab time just for practice. So I have a technology lesson right here, and I put my I can statement, or it could be your essential question or any instructions you have. And it's saying, let's see, let me do this real quick. So it is saying, what is this a picture of? Say the word out loud. I don't have a picture right there. So let's go ahead and use a picture from here. So you can insert a picture by coming to insert image, and it gives you all these options, y'all. My favorite option, especially when I'm working with kids, if they are creating in Google Docs, I like for them to search the web. That gives you a prime opportunity to talk about keywords with your kids and research skills. Great computer lab lesson, or even just if you're having computers in your classroom. So I personally like these buttons up here. So the little mountain view, I'm going to click insert, search the web. So I'm going to search for a computer mouse clip art. Let me just say, if you put clip art at the end of any kind of searching, that might help you filter out inappropriate images. So clip art's a safe way to search. Okay, I'm going to choose a mouse. I'm going to click it. So I select whatever picture I want and I click insert. Now that's a little big, so I'm going to resize this. And again, I have, let's see, I have the alignment, so I can align my computer mouse. And I love how that looks now, so maybe I'll make it a little bit smaller, okay? Now let's say I need them to go somewhere, right? Like I've just inserted a picture, but down here I've got this teach and learn portion. Let's start linking things, right? HyperDoc linking. So it says, listen to this song, now watch how to use a mouse. I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna grab a URL. So I have a YouTube video that I'm about to link in here. I'm gonna click Control-C. And you can highlight anything in a Google Doc and link it. I could even link this picture, which I'll show y'all in just a second. So I highlighted the word listen, and there's a couple ways I can link. I can right-click over that and say insert link. Now it's going to ask me, what do I want to link? Well, I've already copied that URL, so I'm going to say Control-C and click apply. And notice how it turned blue, so I know it's a link now. Now watch how to use a mouse. I'm going to come over here, and this would be great for y'all to use YouTube. If you actually create your own content and you want to teach a lesson, a HyperDoc would be a great way to share that information. So I'm going to come over here again, highlight any word in a HyperDoc, and you can come up here or right here. So insert a link. I'm going to show you insert, and then a link at the bottom. And I'll paste that in there. And now, when my kids go on it, you would have to kind of teach them this. So they would hover over it, click on it, and then they'll see that link, and it would take them right to it, okay? All right, so a couple more things. Maybe you really want the connection table. Like, see how I have these tables in here? And y'all know this from Microsoft Word. So I have a table in here, and let me see, let's delete this one. So if I want to delete anything, you highlight and just use the delete button. Know that I can take a table. So this is like a lesson, right? You can take the connection table or this teach and learn table. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click on, where is it? Copy. There we go. I can copy a table in here, Control Paste, or I can come up here, and this is probably my favorite shortcut, keyboard shortcut, Control D. Oops, maybe that one doesn't work in this one. Okay, I'm going to just copy this one. Control D is for Google Slides. All right, Control V, and I can come up here and I can change the title. Independent, okay? So I have done a table, I've copied it. You can insert, anytime you want to insert anything, you can insert right here. So table, it kind of grows with you. I love that feature. Now, this table, maybe I want it to pop out a little bit more, so I highlighted it, and I don't know if y'all notice over here, I can change the background color of it. And then notice how that menu went away after I clicked off of that table. So I'm going to highlight it again, and let's say I want the border to be a little bit thicker. Because if y'all noticed over here, this had a really thick border and it's got a background. A different color. I could do that. I could even come over here and do some dashed lines, make it look a little different. Maybe you have a system for that. All right, now as I changed that, notice how my tables kind of moved down the page. I don't really like how that's separate, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go to insert a page break. So now I have two pages, and it kind of gives my kids a better view of what we have. All right. Now I told you that you can link words in here. You can also link images. So maybe I don't even like how this looks right now. So I am going to actually, let's see. I'm going to add a table. I'm going to add a row to this. So I highlighted it, right click. I'm a right clicker. Tell me in the chat if you're a right clicker or you like your menus. Okay, I'm gonna say insert row below, and notice how it carried over that color. Maybe I don't want that color. I can come up here and change that. Now let's say I want column to the left, insert column to the left. Now that's really funky. I need to merge these cells. Y'all, when I learned how to merge cells back in the day with with Microsoft Word, that was mind-blowing to me. Okay, so maybe I want my directions, Control X, Control V, and now I want to drag and drop my picture. So, I mean, you could sit here and format these things all day long, but for right now, I'm just going to leave it like that. And y'all see how I have a link? Maybe that's the wrong link. That's not the right link to my song that I want. So I'm going to remove that link. And you can remove links and put them back in there. So maybe I want to go to, y'all, if y'all haven't heard of Music Lab, like the Chrome Music Lab, that's pretty cool. It's really fun for kids to actually work on music, but also use their mouse skills. So I have a link to it. Again, I click on the picture, and now I'm using this link in my toolbar, and I'm going to click apply. So now my kids would be able to come in here and click on that link. This is like a sneak peek of it. Cool, huh? Okay, let's come back over here. Again, ABC, I want them to go to a certain, they can choose. Like, I love giving my kids a choice. And I'm going to paste that right there. All right, so, and this one, maybe that's y'all, where's my red line? It's not there. Normally, independent, do y'all ever sing that? I-N-D-P-E-N-T? Okay. We're going to, normally you would be able to right click over this and have, you know, that spelling error if you want to change your grammar there, okay? Now, not only can you search for images within your computer, so let's say I need to insert something else here. I'm going to come over here to insert image. Now I can upload it from my computer, I can search the web, but maybe I want to pull something in by Google Drive. You know, if you've got a system set up in your Google Drive, that would be really easy. But I'm going to come over here actually to Google Drawing. We are not covering that, but if y'all are interested, y'all let us know. We could whip up another training for that. I'm going to come from Drive, and let's say I want them to actually, at this point you've built out your lesson. Let me go back. You've built out your lesson and you're ready for them to actually turn something into you, right? So if I were to put that in here, it wouldn't really work well just because your kids would have all access to like not your PowerPoint, your Google Slides. And you don't want them to have all access unless you're doing a collaborative thing with them. Now, let's say I want them to do independent practice. That would be a separate thing that they would actually click on in Google Classroom on an assignment. So you would have two things for them to click on. Now, it may just be something that they go to in practice, but I want them to go to one of my Google Slides. So I'm gonna come over here and click Insert, or Google Drawing right from in here, and I'm going to say from Drive, and I'm going to click on this drawing and click Select. Now I can link to my source, or I can say Insert Unlinked. So it's just a picture, and then again, the blue border helps you resize. And again, you can realign it so it looks nice and neat. So this could be an option for y'all for a HyperDoc to work through lessons with your kids and give them stuff to interact with without having to pop in and out of Google Classroom. Now, let's see. So we've covered all the formatting in Google Docs. Now let's talk about how you can really move into that collaborative piece of Google Docs. So I am going to have a teammate of mine, Lynn Hawkins. She's going to pop in here. She actually has access to this. Now you may be using Google Docs or HyperDocs with your teacher friends, your team, and in that case you can work on lessons together. That's a pretty cool feature of this. And then you also have the ability to collaborate with your students. So we're going to pretend like Lynn is a teacher coming in here to help me with my lesson, give me feedback on it. Maybe she wants to contribute some stuff. So you may need to share this with them. So I'm going to come up here to share. And I would come down here to get a link. Now, you may want to change this to, normally it would say restricted, but maybe you want to come in here to Houston County Board of Education, or anyone with a link may be another option that you have. So I want Lynn to be able to edit. So you may need to change the permissions on your Google Doc. And I'm going to click Done. And so Lynn should be able to pop in. And I may need to, I'm going to copy this link and I could send it to her. and an email, but she already has access to this. So you know that Lynn has popped in here because I see a little pink line and it hover over it. It's Lynn Hawkins. I also have an L up here that lets me know that someone's in here working on it. So Lynn's gonna come in here and she's gonna just start typing. And right now in the upper right hand corner, I have it set to editing mode. So whatever Lynn is doing in here, or whatever your students or whatever your teacher friends are doing in here, they're actually taking your document and making edits to it. There's another feature in here that we really love. So she's coming in here, she's typing. There's another feature that we love that we're going to show you in just a second. So this mouse is too big. Okay, so Lynn has made that edit. Now, I could come in here and delete that if I wanted to, but something that I really love with Google Docs, especially if you're working with a team or your kids, is if you come up here to editing and you change it to suggesting. So I'm going to change it to suggesting mode. And Lynn would actually have to change it on her end to be suggestion mode, and I actually think she's already done that. So she's going to come in here and now it's acting like a comment for me. And I think in Google Classroom, when you are giving feedback to students, you're already in suggestion mode. It kind of gives you like a comment bank. All right, so she's come in here and I can see this is her comment. I could either keep this, so I can accept it, or I can reject the suggestion. So here's what it looks like if let me scroll so y'all can see. I'm gonna accept this suggestion. All right, so it turned it black. It took on the formatting that I have in place already on my Google Doc. Now let's say this one, I don't wanna keep that one. So I'm gonna reject that suggestion and it takes it completely away. So I think those are some pretty cool features in Google Docs that you could be using with your kids and with your teams. Now, a couple more things. Over here, when I click on File, I can't tell you how many times I've deleted something or completely lost all my work, or whatever it may be. Maybe a kid has put something inappropriate in here. In Google Docs, you can see a version history. So File, Version History. And let's go see that version history. So the very bottom option. And you can tell this was created on July 28th. And I've been in here a lot. Lynn's been in here a lot. I can click on July 29th and it's going to show me the edits, the version of this doc. So you can see what we've done in here previously. So you can restore this version, or you can come over here to what you had originally. So you can tell all the different edits, and I love that feature. So I'm just going to click this back arrow, and that is how File, Version History, see Version History. Okay? Now, the last thing that I want to share with you with Google Docs is File, and you can download Google Docs in any way. So automatically, if you download something, because it's a cloud-based system, it would automatically change into Microsoft Word if you're on your Windows device at school. So I can download this as Microsoft Word. I can do it as a PDF, which your link should still work. So those options are there. Those are the two biggest options that we have in Google Docs. Now, I'll say this, let's go ahead and let's give this a try. So I've gone over a few things. I've gone over, how to format your page. I've gone in and told you how to format other things, insert pictures and insert links. I want you to give it a try now. So I actually have a template for you that I'm going to drop in the chat. Let's see if I can find my window. All right, so I'm going to drop this in the chat. This is actually a template that y'all can click on, and I'm going to give you just a few minutes, or let's say 2 minutes, and I want you to practice one thing that I have taught you with a Google HyperDoc. I want you to create something in there, maybe create a link, maybe insert a picture, change the template in some way. And I want you, so what should have happened is you clicked on my link and you should have gotten a make a copy button. And I'll even show y'all how to do that real quick. So again, I am going to come up here to my share button. It's showing an error, okay? So it worked yesterday, so we'll try this again. So we'll change this. Let's see, I changed the editor. Okay, let's do this, y'all. Let me show, let's see. I'm gonna come over here, I'm in my Google Drive, and let's say I wanna get a shareable link. And it should be Houston County Board of Education. I need to make sure it's view. I'm gonna copy this link. So y'all are getting a live, let's see how we can make a shareable document without editing a document. So I'm gonna click copy link, open a new tab. I'm gonna paste this link, and at the very end of this link, it says edit USP equals sharing. I'm gonna delete that off, and I'm gonna type copy. Now I'm going to share this with y'all. Click copy. I'm actually gonna click enter, and this is what you should see. So let's try that again. I'm gonna click this in the chat. So try that one, and y'all let me know if that one's working. Error message. So y'all try that second link for me and click make a copy. You should have make a copy, and then you'll have your own copy of my template. Actually, it's a template from something else. So y'all go 2 minutes. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to try that out. All right, ready, set, go. Hey guys, I know you're saying in the chat, you're saying too many requests or heavy traffic. We will be sharing these resources, so if you are trying, try it a different way. So let's try this. So go to slide or go to docs.new and open up a Google Doc for me. And I want you to maybe create a table and insert a picture with the 50 seconds that you have left. And I promise you that template, we will share that with you, and I'll show you where we'll share that at the end of this training. So just a few more seconds. Yeah, heavy traffic, that happens. All right, guys, so I hope that you enjoyed learning a little bit more about Google Docs. Again, we're going to be sharing some of these resources, but we've got a lot more content to cover with you, so we are going to pass it off to Kristen and Larry, and they're going to talk to you a little bit about working in forms.
Hey guys, good morning. This is Kristen, and I'm going to spend some time talking to you about Forms today, which is an awesome app that is available to us through Google that helps us collect information and also helps us to create quizzes. As with most things, there are a couple different ways to access Forms. Some people like to access it directly from their Google Drive. So if you're one of those people, you click on New, and you'll have to extend your menu so it says More, and you'll go to Google Forms. I actually prefer to just do it directly from the waffle. So if I am on my Chrome browser and I'm logged into my Google account, I can click on the waffle in the top right-hand corner, and then I would just navigate to forms. So this is the way that I prefer to do it. So I'm going to hop on into this form section. I do want to point out that they have templates. I'm not going to really go into templates today, but if you are interested in forms, this is definitely worth checking out. I especially like the contact information if you're trying to gather a bunch of information from parents, students, or just around your school. That's an excellent way to do it. Also, there is a sample exit ticket, which might be something cool that you want to do with your students during your Google Classroom lessons or possibly even your Zoom lessons. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to create a quiz today so that you can kind of see what that looks like from behind the scenes. I'm going to click on the plus sign where it says blank, and it opens up a form for me. Notice that it's an untitled form, so I can give this form a title right away. I'm just going to call it July 30th quiz. When I name the file, it actually is giving me a title at the top of my quiz as well. You can adjust this. So if you wanted to be specific about the title at the top, you certainly can change that. Okay, so I just renamed it the top left, and then I can give it an additional name or information at the top of the form. Now, before we hop into creating all the questions, it's important for us to talk about the form and quiz settings. So as you're probably familiar now, anytime we talk about settings, we almost always go to the gear or the cog. You can find that in the top right-hand corner of your screen. So I'm going to click on settings, and I have 3 tabs within settings, and they all have very important information in it. For our purposes today, we're going to create a quiz. So I'm going to check collect email addresses, and we want to encourage you to do that when you're giving quizzes to your students. And then you'll have to make a decision about sign in. We generally keep this checked so that it's just our HCBE people answering our quizzes or our forms. And then you have an option as to whether to limit your responses or not. If it's a quiz, most likely you're going to limit it to 1 response. But if it's a study guide or review, this is something you possibly do not want to check so that students could take it as many times as they'd like. So that's just something to think about as you create your quiz. Underneath that section, you can determine whether respondents can edit after they actually submit the quiz to you, and whether they can see summary charts and text responses. I generally do not check those, okay, but you can depending on your purpose. So that's just under the General tab. Next, we've got to take a look at the Presentation tab. You do have an option to show the progress bar, which is helpful if you have multi-page quizzes. You can shuffle the question order so that students get the questions in different orders. And then you have a confirmation message. If you don't change it, it's going to say your response has been recorded, but you can change this to anything. You can say thanks, great job, or whatever message you'd like for your students to see once they've submitted their quiz to you. All right, so that's under the Presentation tab. Next, we're going to go to the Quizzes tab. And like I said, we're going to turn this form into a quiz. So I have to actually toggle this button on. I have to tell Google Forms I want this to be a quiz. It opens up another option. Please do not check this option. I know it's going to be tempting because we want to lock them out if they're on Chromebooks where they can only see 1 tab, but I promise you it's going to cause you more grief than anything else. So please do not check that because it will cause problems for your students. All right, very important, the last 2 sections here. Release grade and what the respondents can see. Right now I have it checked where the grade will be immediately released to the student. So that means they take the quiz, submit it, boom, they can see their answers, okay? Most of you are probably going to want to choose later after manual review, and you want to do this so that students don't, so that you can release the grades basically at one time. So after the majority of your students have taken it or the time that you've set forth has elapsed, you can then go back and release those grades to them. I'll show you how to do that. So for now, I'm just going to put later because I don't want my students to see their grade right away because I've got a class full of students still waiting to take it. Underneath, when they do eventually get to look at the feedback on their quiz, You can decide whether you want them to see the missed questions, correct answers, and the point value. So those are just check boxes that you can do. Now, it's really easy to forget on this one that you do have to click save. You know, we're kind of used to auto save on a lot of things now, but after you have set your general, presentation, and quiz options, you want to click on save. All right. One thing that we want to encourage you to do is to let the first card that you see here, the first little bit of information, be to ask the student's name. So right here I would say, please type your name below, and I would make this a short answer question, and I would require it. The reason why we suggest this is because when you are viewing the responses, you're going to see those students' emails. So it's going to be some initials and a bunch of numbers. So it's probably going to be more beneficial for you at a quick glance to be able to see a name. For those of you that really like information broken down, you can even have one for first name and one for last name. So that's just up to you. And again, this is not mandatory, but it is something that we suggest, okay? I'm going to add, first of all, let's take a look at the options on the toolbar to our right. I have a plus sign, which allows me to add a question. If I'm just going down the line, I can import questions, which we'll look at soon. I can add a title and description. I can add an image to my quiz. I can add a video, and I can add a section. So I didn't really give any information up here. So what I'm going to do now is add a title and description. So give me just a second to plug that in. This is going to be a quiz about prepositions. So I'm going to just paste that in, and I'm going to give them a little bit of information about prepositions as well. This could be background information, this could be instructions, depending on what your preference is. Now notice this is actually below where I want them to type their name, but you can easily rearrange information on your forms. I have this little grid right here in the middle where I can grab and drag and reorder things. So very easy. I'll show you again. I'm going to pull it down. Very easy to reorder. Okay. All right, let me grab that and put it right back up there. All right, so you see some other options here. I have the option to duplicate, and I have the option to delete. And then also what I want to do is I actually want to give you just a second to do just this little bit. We've only covered just a little bit in our forms and quizzes, but if you'll take just a minute, and I want you to open up a browser. You'll just click on the little plus sign so that you can add an additional browser, or you can go to forms.google.com. So whichever way you're comfortable with. You can, if you're in your Google Drive, you can do it from there. You can click on your waffle like I showed you at the beginning, or you can just type in forms.google.com. And what I want you to do is just take about 90 seconds, maybe a minute and a half, to go to forms.google.com. Click on the plus to start a blank form, and I just want you to make that first question card that requests a student's name. And I do want you to toggle on that required, the required tab, okay? We'll talk about that in about 90 seconds. All right, guys, I hope you had a chance to do that. If not, no worries. You can try it on your own time. Remember, all these sessions are recorded, so just do what you can. Don't stress if you didn't get it, okay? I do want to mention that on the part where you type your name, definitely make sure you do required, and anything that you want to make sure the students answer, if you want to make sure that they answer everything that's on your quiz, you want to toggle this on to required. They will not be able to submit until they have answered in some way, shape, or form. So that's something to give some thought to. All right, so now let's work on building our quiz. I'm going to go over to the plus because I want to add a question. And it kind of gives you like a little outline, but there's many ways you can change this up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, hold on one second. I'm going to take a sentence that I want them to identify the preposition in. So I'm going to paste a sentence in here, and then I'm going to also copy and paste my answers in here. Oops, excuse me. Let's try that again. All right, so I've got my sentence. I want them to identify the preposition. This is a multiple choice question, but I want to go over here to the right-hand side of this little card here, and you have different options. So you've got short answer, paragraph, multiple choice. You can check boxes. They can check more than one correct answer when you do that. Drop down. You do have the ability to allow them to upload files. And then you have some additional options going all the way down to requiring a date and a time. So I just want to make sure that you know there's all kinds of things available for the type of quizzes that you give. Now let's go back to this one particular question that I'm working with. Since it is a quiz, I'm going to require it. I also want to go to the answer key. So that's in the bottom left-hand corner in blue where it says answer key. I want to click on that because I want this to grade for me. And I want to choose the correct answer, and then I also can determine how many points this is worth. So maybe I want this one to be worth 10 points and not worth 1 point, okay? So choose the correct answer. It's going to put a little check mark, determine how many points you want that particular question to be. We could click on done at this point, but the cool thing is you can add answer feedback. So you see the little blue option down here below my multiple choice options. I'm going to go to add answer feedback. So I can give a response to my students based on their incorrect or correct answers. So let's just say that this was for my incorrect answers, I'm going to have, let's see, I've got a video, if I can just grab it right here. I have already found a video clip on prepositions. So if it's incorrect, I'm going to say, please watch this video. And if you look below, I've got the option to hyperlink to something, so I could hyperlink to a file, for example, but in this case, I do want to hyperlink to my video, so I'm going to click on my video button. I'm going to go to the URL tab, and I'm going to paste in my video on prepositions. Okay, so that's what the students are going to get if they answer that incorrectly. For correct answers, you can leave it blank, you can add a message, you can add a file, you can also attach a video. You do have to make sure that you click on save for this. All right, so I've added a question, it's multiple choice, I've given it points, I have selected the right answer, and you can see that I'm providing feedback for both correct answers and incorrect answers. I'm going to click on done. I am done with that particular question. Now, if I hated this question, of course, y'all know the trash can will allow me to delete it, but I may want to duplicate this question. Not that I want to duplicate the question so much as duplicate the feedback. Maybe I'm giving the same feedback throughout, and I don't want to keep putting that in there. So I could click on the duplicate button, which is right here to the left of the trash can, and I'm going to put a different option in there. I'm going to put a different sentence and a different set of potential answers. If you'll bear with me for just a second while I put those in there. I'm going to just click on the X to clear out my ones from the original question. And now I've got a new question. I still need to go to the answer key And this is what I wanted to point out. I still have the same feedback, so I don't have to keep doing that for every single question. I just need to select my correct answer and then click on Done. All right. Next, we're going to look at the how to add an image. Okay, so there might be a picture that you want to include. You can add an image and then have them answer questions based upon that image. So I'm going to the right-hand side where I've got my little toolbar here. I'm going to click on Add Image. I have a lot of options here. I can browse my computer for an image. I could go to the camera and take a picture from a laptop. I can do a URL. I can go to my Google Drive, or I can search directly for an image. So for example, I might go to Google Image Search, which is really convenient to have it right here, and type in prepositions, and maybe I want to, I'm going to choose this particular picture, by the way. Notice Insert pops up in the bottom right. I'm going to click on Insert. Maybe I want them to preview this, or review this rather, let's say review this before answering. Okay, so you can add a question, or you can ask questions based upon an image. Now remember, every time you see the 3 dots, that means I have more options. So I can click on those 3 dots. I can put that picture in the center. I can remove it. I can change it. When I select the picture, notice that I have the little nodules on the end, so I can resize this. That's pretty tiny right now. So my students are not going to be able to view that very well. So I'm going to make that larger. All right. So that's inserting an image file. Now let's take a look at a YouTube video. So I added a YouTube video for incorrect feedback, but there may be times where you want to insert a video, ask questions, insert another video, ask questions, okay? So you've got the option over here for adding a video on the right-hand side. I'm just going down this menu bar on the right. I'm going to click on Add Video. And of course you could search, but hopefully you have already searched and you have already previewed that video. So I'm going to go into the URL place and I'm going to paste a video about prepositions that I've already previewed and approved. I'm going to click on Select in the bottom left. I'm going to scroll down so y'all can see it. And I still have these same options. I've got my little 3 dots. I still can center this, and also I can still expand it and make that video just a little bit bigger. So I might say something like, please watch the video first. As a reminder, remember I can click on each card where you see the little 6 dots in the middle, and I could move this all the way up to the top. Okay? All right. I'm going to show you importing questions last. The only thing I want to mention to you about sections is that you can add a section. In the advanced training, you're going to get a little bit more information if you choose to show up for that one. There will be more information about adding a section, but all that really does is help you divide stuff into different pages. So you might like have a page for your chapter 1 stuff, a page for your chapter 2 stuff, and there's lots of cool things you can do with sections as well, but that will be taking place in our advanced training that starts at 1:30 today. Okay? All right. So I'm going to pause again for a second. I want to actually, you know what? Hold on. I want to show you one more thing before I give you a chance to go off on your own. Hold on just one sec. Let me scroll back up here. I want to show you how to customize your theme. So now I'm going back to the very top of the form. On the right-hand side, I've got a lot of little options. Remember, we were looking at the cog or the gear early on. Just go 2 to the left. Looks like a painter's palette, and we can customize our theme. So I can change the color. I can change the background color, and you have a few different options for fonts. So that gets, when you have a lot of quizzes, that gets a little bit easier to identify them on your end when you're looking at all of your quizzes at one time. So you may want to adjust the color or the theme. You also can choose an image. It can be your own image, or they have some. I'm going to click on Choose Image. And again, I could upload. I could go find a file on my computer, or they've given me quite a few options here. I'm going to go with the pencils. I do have to click on Insert in the bottom right-hand corner. Give it a second to process. And it did change my background to pink. So when you pick a picture, it may change your colors. They'll give you a few other options where you still can go change. So that's customizing, how you can customize each of your quizzes. All right, I'm going to click on X to close that out. And I want to go back. It looks like let me add one of my questions back real quick. When I deleted my section, here's a note to self. When I showed y'all the section, I deleted my question. So let me throw one more question on here real quick so that y'all can see what it looks like in a minute from the student view. Hold on one sec. I'm going to click on the X to close that out. I'm going to go back into my answer key. I'm going to choose my correct answer. I'm going to give correct feedback. I'm going to give a link for incorrect feedback. And I'm going to hit save. I'm going to make this worth 10 points. And I'm going to then click on done. All right, so we're going to pause for about 90 seconds. And it is your turn. So what I'd like you to do during this time is on the form you've created is I want you to take a few minutes to play around with the customization. You want to go to customize and you can change it up however you'd like. You can add an image. And also I want you to take a second and go look at all those settings that I mentioned at the very beginning. Okay, you want to go to that cog, go to quizzes, and then you want to toggle it on to ensure that it is a quiz. All right, guys, I hope you had a chance to check out the customization and then also some of the options that you have, and also we're able to toggle on the option for a quiz. Just a couple more things to show you before I pass it off to someone else. What I especially love about forms is that we can preview it so we can see what the student sees. So we've got this little eyeball that's in between our paint palette and our gear. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to preview our quiz. This is exactly what the students would see. I actually can take this quiz. So let's just assume right now that I'm not doing a preview. I want you to get a feel for this as far as what a student's going to do. A student's going to come in and answer the question and then click on submit. And remember, I added that message at the end, thanks, great job. So whatever your custom message is, this is what they're going to see, okay? Now, let's say that student tries to take the quiz again. They're going to the quiz for the second time. Now look at my message. It says you've already responded and I can only fill it out once. Remember in the settings where I checked the box that said limit response to only one? That's why we're getting this message here, which is what many of you will want until the majority of the class has taken that particular quiz. All right, so I'm going to hop back over to my form. This is the teacher form. When I am ready for my students to be able to view their grade, this is what you have to do, okay? I'm going to go back into my settings. I'm going to click on the gear in the top right-hand corner. I'm going to go to the Quizzes tab, and I'm going to go back to the release grade. So right now I have it on later. So that's why they're getting that message saying, nope, you've already taken it, and then that's it. All right, so I'm going to choose immediately after each submission because my class is finished with this quiz. I want them to be able to get their feedback. So I'm going to change that to immediately after each submission. I've got to remember to go save in the top right-hand corner. So I'm going to click on save, and then just assume I'm a student coming in to take this again. And please note what's changed. It does still say I've already responded, so I know I've submitted it. But now I have a new button, and I can view my score. So I can come in here and look at however the settings are. It's giving me both. It's giving me the correct answer on this one. Notice I missed that one, so it's giving me the link to go review something. All right. I'm going to close those out. I'll come back over here. Let me close those out real quick, guys. All right, so I'm back on my teacher quiz, the teacher side here, okay? In order to view, you've got an option at the top to go to responses. I can see that only one person has responded. The summary will be way more beneficial to you when you can look at 30 different people's responses. You can take a look at that. I can view the breakdown by question, or I can go to the individual and then navigate to that person's particular responses. Okay, so that's where you'll find your responses right here. Also, let's see, I'm gonna hop in here real quick. Notice that I have 0 out of 10 here. I know this is the incorrect answer, but let's just say that my key was incorrect, or I just thought we needed to do some bonus points. For whatever reason, I needed to adjust this. I can adjust this after it's been graded, that's fine. Or if you have one that's like a short answer or paragraph, this is where you'll come in here and you'll make that change. So let's just say I wanted to give this child partial credit. I'm going to change it so that I'm giving them 5 out of 10 points. It's telling me at the bottom, edits are pending. I can either discard or save. I do want to save. Okay, so now you can see 5 out of 10 points. So I just want you to be aware that you can adjust that manually after the fact. And of course, that's good for your short answer and your paragraph answers as well. All right, guys, I think we dropped off for a second, so I want to kind of backtrack again for just a second. What I was saying was, I know this is a lot of information. There's so much that you can do with forms. And again, if you're really interested in cool things with forms and quizzes, that's available in our next session, or again, on our recorded sessions after the fact. You'll be able to view that. But I was talking about Google Classroom because a lot of you are going to create your quizzes ahead of time, and you're going to want to attach the file. But I want to show you a better way to do this, okay? I'm going to close this out completely. I'm going to click on my waffle and navigate to my Google Classroom. And then I'm going to hop into one of my Google Classrooms, and I'm going to go to the Classwork tab, which is where I would be creating a quiz assignment, okay? So I'm going to do create. And again, I just don't want to attach a quiz. The reason being is because if you keep attaching the same quiz, it's going to pull all the data from all your classes. So if you are attaching the same quiz from last semester, you're going to have last semester's results and this semester's results, and all that stuff's going to be mixed in together, okay? But don't fret, you don't have to recreate the wheel. All you have to do is go to create quiz assignment, and if you were in the earlier session, you probably recall that's going to give you a blank quiz, okay? You'll jump into your blank quiz, and this is where the importing questions comes in handy. That was the one thing on the right-hand side of the toolbar that we hadn't touched on yet. So blank quiz, I can call this preposition quiz, whatever, for July 2020, whatever you want to name it. I do not have to recreate it. What I do is I come over to my toolbar on the right-hand side, and I'm going to go to the second option, which says import questions. And then I've got all of my forms to choose from. I can go to any of these forms, but I'm going to choose the one that we just did, and I'm going to click select, which is going to give me a menu that pops up on the right-hand side. If I hadn't deleted all my questions, this is where I would choose all of the questions. I can choose one question at a time, or I can choose to import all. You click on the bottom section where it says import questions. So again, this could be, you could import 3 out of 30 questions, all 30 questions, whatever you want to do. Import questions, and it brought in all of my information. Okay, so let me just kind of reiterate again. If you've already created a bunch of quizzes, it will be easier for you and less confusion on the back end when you're trying to review results. If you go to Create, Quiz Assignment, hop into your new blank quiz, go to the right-hand side and choose Import Questions, and navigate to that quiz that you want to pull the questions in from. Okay. All right, guys, I hope that's been helpful. Lynn is now going to share some information with you about YouTube.
Test 1, 2. Hey everybody, this is Lynn Hawkins, and I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about YouTube, one of my favorite places to go. Obviously, you are probably wondering how do you get there? Well, you could type it in the search bar. You could actually save it at the top, but as Kristen pointed out, we're going to use a waffle because YouTube is actually one of our applications with Google. So you can click on YouTube. Now I need to tell you something. Before you get in here, you need to be using your HCBE account. And how you know you're using your account is if you can look up here in the top right hand corner, if you see that I've got an L right there inside of that green circle. And if I click on it, it'll actually come up and say, this is Lynn Hawkins, Lynn.Hawkins at HCBE. So I have actually 3 different YouTube accounts, and this is the one that I use for HCBE. So I have to make sure that I'm in there each time. Now, you want to use a video. Well, first thing you need to do is know this. If you're going to use a particular video, so I'm going to say I want to use that EdTech video. Let's see what comes up. And, ooh, that one looks good. EdTech Make Easy. Let's try that one. And it says, hey, she's talking. You can't hear what she's saying, but trust me, she's talking. I want to tell you this. If you want to approve it, there's a button over here, and then that means that your kids can watch it, your students can watch it. Now, if you approve this, that means that you have watched this. And Mike and I are old dogs. We've been in this county for over 40 years. We actually grew up in this county, and now we're working in this county. And I want to tell you, back in the day, we know a lot of teachers that did not preview their reel-to-reel videos. So please preview what you are watching before you just go ahead and click approve. And I know that you're probably thinking like, this particular one, I actually saved it. I liked some of the tips and tricks that this lady had, but I don't want to approve. I know you see approve right there on the right hand side. I don't want to approve a whole channel because guess what? I have not watched all of her videos, and so I'm not going to approve every single one of them. But if I'm looking at one in particular, let me see if I can bring this one up here. And I want to add this video. There's several places in Google Classroom that you can add the video. So let me bring up Google Classroom. Kristen's already talked about you can drop it over there in forms. So if I go to Google Classroom, I have a test classroom just to kind of show you how to drop stuff in. The first thing you see when you bring your class up is you see the stream right there. So I need to have, obviously, this URL. And type in the chat over here, who can remember how to copy and paste that real quick? Does anybody remember? What kind of keys are you going to use on your keyboard, or how are you going to do it on your mouse? I'm waiting. Are you doing it? I see it. I see it. There you are. You're paying attention. Okay, I thought you were asleep there for a minute. All right. So yeah, Control C, Control V. You can also do right click and you can copy it right there. And we're going to come over here to the stream, and I want to add something to my stream. Good job. Y'all are doing great. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add like a little note. And I consider stream like the place where I'm going to put all my announcements, like we got a quiz coming up, or hey, how you doing today? It's Monday. And whatever you want to say, like today is Tuesday. Hey, no, it's not Tuesday, it's Thursday. Get your head on. And we're going to add that YouTube video. So I don't know if you saw what I did there. Right below, there's a little add button, and I clicked on YouTube. And I already know my URL. Y'all showing me how to do it right there. So I'm just going to Control V or right click and paste it in there. And give it a second to pop up, and boom, I got my video in. And I mean, if you want to give them some instructions, you know, hey, watch this, we'll be using it later for this lesson, that's fine. I like too, a lot of times there's so many books out there that are being read on YouTube. You could actually find like an author maybe that's reading a book, and you can post that on there, and maybe you could discuss the book later. But anyway, then you just click post and it puts it right in your stream. That's pretty sweet. And another place you can drop it is over here in classwork, obviously. Within classwork, you've got obviously a lot of different places that you can a lot of different options that you've got to create. The first one I'm going to look at is assignment. So let's click on assignment. And I don't know if you see the add button right there, but you can add something. But first, I'm going to give it a title, video lesson. How about that? And then I'm going to click add, go to YouTube, and this time I'm going to do Control V instead of the right click. Oh, and make sure you're on the right place too. I'm on video search. Oh, but which brings me to the fact that I could search for videos in there if I wanted to search for. I'm a big fan of dogs. Mike is too. Not sure about the rest of these guys in here. I think Kristen's into cool cats and cool kittens. So anyway, but you can search for it. But I actually know the one that I want to use, and so as soon as it pops up, then I'm going to click add, and I've got my video, I've got my, I didn't put any instructions in there, but you can add something, you know, whatever you want to say, watch this video, and then answer the form that's attached, however you want to say. Okay, and then Kristen has also shown you this is what I said a minute ago, and that is adding it to a quiz. So same song, different verse. I'm just going to say this is a video lesson. I am not even capitalizing. Math people, we don't really care about all that mess. We just care about the numbers. I'm going to go into blank quiz. And for blank quiz, I want to add a video. I know that the very first one, if you remember, if you've been paying attention, maybe you were in the last meeting, what should the very first question be? Does anybody remember what the very first question should be? I'll give you a hint. What is my, I'm waiting for it, wait, feel like Bueller. Bueller, there it is, name, that's right. So I'm just going to say name on there, and then my, I'm going to add something, and then my next question, you're paying attention, y'all doing good. What's my name? And then it makes me want to sing, but I won't do that. So the next one I'm going to add a video, and I want to tell you that, again, I'm just copy pasting that same video in there. But the video is not the question, all right? video is always going to be on a separate card. So if you want your question to be either before it or after it, that's fine. But the video is, it's not like you can pair the two like directly together. So when you start saying, what do you call it? When you get them all mixed up or whatever, mix up the cards, watch out because the video may not stick with the question. So I like to keep mine aligned, and I like everything to be just so. But that, again, that's the media person, math person in me. And that's pretty much it for me talking about YouTube. Just make sure that you watch the videos and approve only the ones that you watched. And it's easy to plug and play there, put them in wherever you want them. And Larry's now going to talk to you about some of the options that our students can actually see when they are viewing the YouTube videos. So I'm handing it over to Larry. Here's Larry.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I almost said good morning. That almost messed me up. I didn't realize we had already passed the 12 o'clock mark. So let's go ahead and finish up this talk about forms real quick. I want to show you kind of playing back the video. I've seen some comments in chat that had to do with some things, and I might kind of calm some fears about what a student, when they go to play the video, are going to see whenever you're using these videos within Google Classroom. And so that's one of the key things here. We're using the videos inside of Google Classroom, so there is some protection right there for us. So I'm logged in, and I am in Ms. Spigner's homeroom, and I am in as a student. Notice there's not a grade option. And I want to go to classwork, and I'm going to view a couple of assignments here that have videos on them to let you see what a student sees. So here is my YouTube tutorial assignment. I can click on View Assignment, and here's what happens when you post a video in Google Classroom for students to see. The student clicks on it. It pops up right here. Notice there are no pre-ads. Notice there's also no little yellow line throughout to have any in-video ads. The only ads that can possibly show in these videos would be an ad that they actually recorded as part of their video. But additional ads will not pop up. Now, if I do pause it, you see you get recommendations. There's really nothing you can do about that, but the recommendations tend to be based on the viewer's search history. So you see sometimes I do play music in the office. So they can, let's close it back out and click it back up. If they need to see it full screen, they can click the little full screen button, or they can even turn on closed captioning. And as you create your own content, that is made automatically for you in YouTube. You don't have to worry about that. We'll be covering that in the advanced session this afternoon and tomorrow morning. So that is within a normal assignment. Let's jump into a form real quick just to show you. I know I have a quiz here somewhere. Here we go, sample quiz, view assignment. It does work slightly differently here. So here's the video. You'll notice when I click play, it does play right here, but I can't go to full screen. You have to click YouTube to go out onto YouTube to view it, and then close the tab back out and you'll come right back to the quiz. So that's the only difference from the student's view when they go to view it within a quiz. You can't full screen it inside the quiz. You have to go out to YouTube to see it. So it does cut out most of the ads is what's really good. You know, if you're using your own content, it's going to automatically close caption it for you and really helps that. Now, that pretty much wraps up kind of what the students see. And one thing I want to point out here while I am in the student view, so you can tell, this is me as an adult signed in as a student. So you can add your fellow teachers as students if you want to do that to help have a student view. Another option you have is you can always log in as any of your students. And particularly if one of them's having an issue with something, hey, I'm seeing this, log in as that student and see what they're seeing. We have given the feedback to Google along with several other districts to say, hey, it would be really nice if in Google Classroom there was a button we could click on for a student view. And so they've heard the feedback. Hopefully one day we'll get it, but Google's a pretty big corporation, so who knows. All right, so at this time, we're going to, kind of basically, we've wrapped up what we're doing with YouTube here. Again, we want to talk about creating YouTube content in the advanced training, and let's talk about virtual meetings now. So some of you may have heard that we were going to be using Google Meets this year. Well, Google has not gotten all their updates into Meet yet where we can provide a safe environment for students. So because of that, our district has made the decision that we're going to stick with Zooms. So let's show you how we're going to be using Zoom. So let me log into my single sign-on. You may not have this button yet, but if you remember back in the spring, to use Zoom, you went through Clever and you had to do a few clicks to get to Zoom. This time it's going to be a little bit differently, and Zoom is going to be added straight into your single sign-on. So here you see my Zoom icon. You may not have it yet. Hopefully over the next few days it will pop up in there. So we'll click Zoom, and I'll log in. And here we go into my Zoom. And nothing should look different than what you did if you were using Zoom back in the spring. So it should look just the same. You know, you'll have a capacity of 300 students. So hopefully none of you will need to use all 300 at once. But a few things I want to point out in here. So first of all, I'll go down to settings. And here's where you'll see all of your settings. There are some important things you want to be aware of in here. You want to turn on your waiting room, right? So you want to approve each person one by one for entry. You want to be sure that you have passwords turned on. A cool little trick here, if there's certain things you're looking for, like I can hit the Control and F key, so that's Control F, to bring up this little search. And maybe I want to be sure that I have the breakout room feature, just for example. So here it is. I can turn on breakout rooms. So there's lots and lots of settings in here. I'm not going to go through all of them right now because, like I said, there's a ton of them, and just for the sake of time, we've got some really cool things that, in particular, Mike's going to be showing you here in just a few minutes. But do be aware that those are in here, and I will show you this, and we will be talking more about this at the end of the training. On our resource site, if you scroll down, there is how to change settings for safe and secure meetings. You will find all of our recommended settings right there in that video. So it's a video, you play it, and you can basically just follow along, set your settings the way we recommend to try to keep your Zoom meetings as safe and secure as possible. So let's look at this. You can set up a meeting in here by going to meetings. There's a schedule button. You can go through and schedule one. Do not use the recur meeting button because you want a new link every time. And that's much, much safer. Always generated a new ID. We don't want students to join before we do. We do not want to record. Now guys, this is very important. We do not record interactions with students. So if the student's on the meeting, you're not recording that meeting. Zoom is not what you're going to be using to record any lessons or materials for students. We'll be covering that in the advanced. We've got some other tools available for you to do that, regardless if you're on a phone, a Chromebook, or even just your Windows desktop. So we can schedule the meeting here by clicking Save. Let me go back to meetings. You see here is one that I created earlier today. I can even start the meeting from right here. But what's really nice, and y'all probably seen this when you start or you go to join a Zoom, it's going to pop up like, hey, do you want to open the Zoom? And if it's the first time, it's going to download the app. I personally much prefer to use the app. So I tend to just click on my Start menu, type in Zoom, and say, oh, Start Zoom. And it will open up for me. Boom. And so right here, I can say New Meeting. I'm just going to go ahead and start one right here. And I'm not going to join my computer audio just so we don't get any feedback or looping. And here we go. So here we are in Zoom. So we're going to pretend that I am running a Zoom with my students, right? If I had a webcam, I would be able to do this, which again, if you're using a Chromebook, there's a built-in webcam. No need to worry there. Participants is where you can click to allow people who are in the waiting room, or if you need to kick out somebody or whatever, or mute them, turn off their camera. You can do all those things right here from within the participants screen. You also have the chat, which is exactly what you think. You can send private chats to people if they were in here, or you could chat to everybody, and you can mute students, things of that nature, all right here in the chat. So the two kind of biggest things we hear, first of all, we hear, what about a shared whiteboard? So if you go to share screen, and right there should be whiteboard. And I can hit share, and now I have this little whiteboard that I can share with my students. And of course, I'm doing my best to write with my mouse right now. but this is definitely an option for you. So there is a built-in whiteboard into Zoom, which is really nice. Of course, other options is, let's close out of my whiteboard. I'm going to share and just share my screen. Make sure I share the right one. Share. And now I'm just back to sharing my desktop. I could always open up the My View Board software and share that whiteboard. And there's also an online version of that if you want to do that as well, or anything else you want to share with students. Now, one important thing when you're sharing, if you have some type of audio with what you're sharing, be sure you check this box. Share computer sound. This has nothing to do with your voice talking through the microphone. This is with applications that have audio. If you want the students to hear that audio, you have to check that box. You also see that as long as you have an iPhone or an iPad that is on the same network, you can also stream your phone. So maybe you're showing off a phone app or something to your kids, walking them through how to use Class Dojo maybe. Everything right there. All right. The other thing we hear a lot about is, well, I want to use my document camera. How do I do that? Well, you could actually use your phone, turn on the camera on your phone, and then share your phone through this and make it work as a document camera. We can go to advanced, and there's this option, but this option will not work if you have the old gray kind of boxy smart document cameras. This content from Second Camera will not work with those older ones. It should work with any of the newer document cameras, like the ones that are white with the gray bendable gooseneck. That should work. So what if you have one of those old document cameras? Well, first thing you could do is you can look on your computer and see if you have a program called ImageMate. If you see ImageMate on your desktop, you can open that program up and it will open your older document camera. It'll open the newer ones too. And so you could simply share your desktop and then also open up that program and they would be able to see your document camera. So that's a good way to think about it is, look, I can open up my view board, display my document camera, and so I'll go to share my screen, and of course they'll be able to see everything you're showing on your screen, which would include your document camera. So there, whiteboard. So whiteboards, to be sure whiteboards appearing on the screen, so that caught my eye in the chat real quick. In order to have it in your settings, if it's not turned on in your settings, and let me just go ahead and I'm going to end this real quick. Go back to my settings. And look, there you see it saved a picture of my whiteboard, which is a really nice feature I love. But in my Zoom settings, there is, and I'm just going to hit Control F, whiteboard. So right here I have whiteboard turned on, and notice it is saving automatically. So you just have to turn on your whiteboard right there. All right. Tell them to start refreshing. All right. Hopefully I'm coming back. If you don't, just refresh the page. I see in the chat everything, it is showing live on my screen. Everything is going good. So yeah, YouTube kicked us out briefly, but we just restarted the stream, so no big deal. So again, and if you're in chat and you still see people still down, just tell them to refresh. All right, so I'll cover one more time, how do I get the whiteboard turned on? So from single sign-on, I click on Zoom, and then I come into my Zoom account here. So let me close this out. So single sign-on, Zoom. I'm going to go into my Zoom account, and what I'm going to do is go to my settings, and to find the setting really quickly so I don't have to look through everything, I'm going to hit Control and F, type in whiteboard, and it'll find it for me, and I'm going to be sure whiteboard is turned on. So if you have, your smart panel, or you've got a smart board or a flat panel in your room and you want to display that, you just need to be sure whenever you're on the Zoom and you go to share screen, you share that screen instead of your desktop screen. So that's all there is to that. All right. So that pretty much wraps up Zoom. And one quick reminder on the Zoom is on our resource page, which we'll talk more about at the end. Remember, there is the video for setting your settings for safe and secure meetings, which is very important. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mike with some really cool things to show you. So give us just a second to switch over.
Sure. All right, everybody, this is Mike. I'm going to go over some virtual field trip stuff with you, show you how you can go on a trip without ever leaving your classroom. So what I'm going to show you is, first off, is Google Earth. So I'm signed in using my work account. I'm going to go to my little matrix, if you want to call it the waffle. I'm going to click here, scroll down, and I'm going to choose Google Earth. All right, sorry for the little break there, the little tech mishap. But again, this section is about virtual field trips. And I'm going to show you a little bit about Google Earth, Google Maps, a couple other little features that you might be able to use in your classroom. So I'm on google.com. I'm signed in with my school email address. I'm going to go to the waffle or the matrix. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to scroll down and I will see Google Earth. So I'm going to click here and it's going to launch Google Earth. Give it a second or two to load up. And there we have Earth. So once we got it here, what we can do, some of the basic things we can do is just search for a place. So I'm going to go to search here, click here, and I am going to go to, you can see my recent searches. So I'm going to go to the Louvre. So I'm going to click here. And of course, if that wasn't in my recent searches, I could put, well, let's try Eiffel Tower. I could search for any location, find it, click on it, and it's going to take me to that location. So here we have, this is the Eiffel Tower right over here. I can zoom in. You've got your plus and minus here. I'm using my mouse wheel. I can just kind of slide on in there and get a little close up. Zoom right on in there. Nice and close. Now you'll notice you have a couple of other options over here. One of the ones I like, of course I can go 3D here. It should tilt it a little bit. A little different angle here. So it gives me this, there's the Eiffel Tower. So this gives a little 3D effect here. I can back out a little bit, maybe get that whole image in there. I can move around, use my mouse to turn left and right. And we have our Eiffel Tower here. Another thing that you can use is the little peg person here. If I click on my little peg person, I'm gonna left click and hold. I'm gonna bring that person out onto the map. And again, just holding the little peg person. Let's see what little locations pop up. And you'll see the streets start turning blue. Those are your little street views that you can see. Now the dots you see are people who have actually taken their own 360-degree pictures and uploaded those. So if I go to just a street view, see, I can drop this little peg person over here on the street, and I just release. It's going to zoom me into that location. Mine is running a little slow here zooming in, but you see it just pops me right down on the street. Oh, what a pretty picture. All right, so there is the Eiffel Tower. All right, I can take the little person, if I just click this little thing here, pop them. Again, it'll take me out, give me a nice aerial view. I'm going to kind of move around on my map here to the Eiffel Tower. See if there's anything else that pops up with the little peg man. And sometimes on these structures, there'll actually be a little dot on the Eiffel Tower. Let's see. Yeah, let's go right there on that dot. And this gives me a view off the Eiffel Tower. So now I'm on the Eiffel Tower looking out over Paris. So there's a lot of cool things you can do. If I were to go back to the Louvre, sometimes you'll see dots on tops of buildings. That doesn't mean that you're going to be on the roof of the building. You'll actually go inside the building. For example, the Louvre, you click on that little dot, it takes you in. You'll be able to see some of the paintings, the sculptures, and so on. Right there inside that museum. So it's pretty cool what you can do with the little peg man there. Now I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to close this little bar here. You've got a couple other little things that are built into Google Earth. You've got your little icon here, the Voyager. So if I click here, this brings up some pre-made tours in Google Earth. So if I go to education, I click on education. Some of the things are about geometry, buildings, Underground Railroad. There's one here on Lewis and Clark, which is kind of neat. So if I go here and I click on this one, it's already got pre-made locations in here that you can go from place to place. And this one we'll talk about Lewis and Clark. I just click Discover. It's a nice little title slide there. And it shows me on the map. Red is outbound when they went out west. Yellow is how they came back. You have a video that's built into this. So if I were to click this video and hit play, it gives me information about Lewis and Clark and their travels. I can click next here and go to the next slide. So it's almost like a PowerPoint built into Google Earth. So it takes me to my next location, gives me some more information about that. Some pictures here that I can click through. I have all the other things that Google Earth gives me. I could do my street view if I wanted to, my little peg person. Zoom in a little closer if I wanted to, and so on. So it's pretty cool that these are all made for you. Now your other one is a little dice. So if I click here, it's just going to take me to some random place somewhere in Google Earth. And I could zoom in, take a look at this area, and so on. Now, the other one I really like is this one here called Projects. I showed you Voyager, where there were pre-made tours built in. Projects lets you do that yourself. So I can click on Projects. I can start a new project. I could give it a title. Let's just call this new. I could add a full-blown slide, just like you saw on the other one. I could search for places to add. I can add all kinds of different things to this. So when I go to present, it's just like what you saw in Lewis and Clark, but I made it myself. And the best thing about this, the students can make them too. It's not just limited to a teacher. And they can customize everything, even these little boxes here. So they can take this, create their own little information box out to the side, click play, and they can show that. So it's a great alternative to just, say, PowerPoint or something like that. Okay? We'll take a look at, I'm going to jump over to one that I already have open, and this is called Google Arts and Culture. So I've got this tab open up here, and it is artsandculture.google.com. We can put that link out there in just a second if you need it. So I'm going to click here, and you will see that these are all, again, pre-made little tours, things that you can travel to. You've got over 2,000 museums around the world. They've got some popular ones at the top. They're all categorized. If we were to click on this one, again, it's going to launch you right into modern art galleries to explore. And I can just scroll down, and it starts taking me into some of these galleries that I can, again, move around left or right, see what's inside these galleries. All right, going to Maps, which is another one. I'm going to go here. Let's go back here. I'm sorry. I'm going to quickly go to Google Maps, show you this. So here's my current location in Google Maps. I do want to show you something that's pretty cool. You can get all your street views, very similar to what you see on Google Earth. This is a little bit more as far as the streets, directions, things like that. I'm going to click on Warner Robins High School just to show you something that's kind of cool in maps that a lot of people don't realize. So I'm going to click here on Warner Robins High School. It gives me my location. You still have a little peg man down here. So I'm going to take my little peg person. And I'm going to drop my little peg person here. I'm going to release. And here I am. That's where they were building the gym. I'm going to scroll around. There's C.B. Watson. There's Flint Electric or whoever that is. And there's Warner Robins High School here. Now, what's cool about this, a lot of people don't realize this, is when you go to Street View, sometimes you will see a little timer. Looks like a little clock. It's actually a little time machine. So I can click here, and it shows my Street View as being August 2019. But they also have another one for June 2012. So I can click on June 2012 and see what this looked like 7 years ago. And I can scroll. Yep, no gymnasium. Scroll around. They are working on C.B. Watson right there. And yes, you can actually see the old Crossroads building, the old C.B. Watson in the background there. And again, it depends on the location. Sometimes you'll have 4 or 5 different views, depending how many photos they've taken in the little Google car when they drive around. So this is always kind of cool to be able to find that, locate it, and see what kind of different views you have there. So I'm wrapping up our virtual tours here. I don't know if I have time for rubrics, Larry. I might. What do you think, Kristen? Yeah. Okay, so this is it here. Let's see. I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to turn this over to Megan.
Can you show how to share the maps when they make
Yeah, they're asking how to share.
What I can do what now?
How to share.
Oh, my projects. Okay, so let's go to a project. Let me go back here. I'll click on, say, this project. And when you present a project, you would just click here. One thing that you can do here is you can share the project. You can actually share between people, which is nice. So you can share between students if they're working on the same one, they can work on that. You can also go and simply share this. Let's see how I'm going to share this. Megan, what do you say?
Click continue. Share.
Oh. I'm going to go here and I'm going to click continue. And I can share with those people or groups. So I can copy my link here.
And then they would send it to you in a form or through Google Classroom.
Yeah, so now they can turn this link in through a Google Form, Google Classroom, and that would be one of the ways that they could actually share you this link so you could access it. In Google Drive, it does download it in Google Drive, which is another way they can share a link. It does download as a really weird, it's called, I think, a KML file. So it's kind of different. They wouldn't necessarily just take you that file and send a copy of it to you. They would send you a link that you could view, or they could take that same link and share that with other people that they're working on. So if they're working in a group, they would do it that way. So yeah, this is a little bit different when they work on it. And of course, we're always there to help you. And if you go this route and use Google Earth and projects, we'd love to help you with that because it's fairly new. We haven't had a lot of people use it yet, so I'd like to see a little more buy-in on that. Would be really nice. All right, so nothing else. All right, so I'm going to turn this over to Megan with a few little closing remarks here.
All right, y'all, we want to know, before we move on, I want to know what your favorite thing has been that you have learned today. It's going to be your one thing that you take away. Are you going to be looking back at working in Google Docs? Are you going to be looking back at working in forms? Are you going to try to focus on YouTube, Zoom, virtual field trips? I know a lot of you are probably going to say something about that Google Earth because y'all were excited about that. Just tell us in the chat which part was your favorite, and we would love to see that. Let's see, what are y'all saying? Forms, Google Earth, love that. Yes, we're so excited that y'all are taking at least one thing away and trying to investigate it a little bit more, playing around with it. Oh, look at all that coming through, guys. So cool. A little bit of everything. Yes, I'm with you on that one. All right, cool. Love it. So many different ideas. And so we did want to share a couple more things with you. So we have our digital learning training resource site. Y'all, I know we've shared a lot today. We do plan on emailing everyone with all the resources that we've been using today and emailing that out after we've conducted all of the trainings on Friday. And remember, this session was recorded, so I'm going to show you this digital learning site. We've shared it so many different times, but up here at the top, I want to show you exactly where this recording will be housed. So we're going to come over here to the tab called Recordings. And today's session will be right here under Intermediate. Now, something I do want to point out, if you need a refresher on Google Classroom, the different parts of it. I know we've talked about assignments a lot. And grading, if you need like a shorter version of this video or of some of this content with Google Classroom and Forms, y'all can check some of these out. We did some optional trainings this summer. So definitely check this out. I'm going to come back over home. I want to point out another thing that we have. A lot of you are asking about Zoom support. What were the best settings to have? We do have that information right down here, and we're going to try to update this as much as we can throughout the school year. Now, the other thing that I wanted to share with you that I don't think we shared in the chat, but anytime that you have a question about like a Google product, something that you aren't quite sure of, you can come to support.google.com. And what's really cool about this, so let's come over here to Google Drive. I can come in here and look at any of these FAQs, storing files in Google Drive, how do I upload a file? And y'all, the really nice thing about this is that sometimes they write out the instructions right as how you need them, but you also can look at it on a computer versus an Android versus an iPhone and an iPad. This was something that you could really share between your team and even showing your kids sometimes how to do some of this. So wanted to point out those two resources. And then Larry is about to pop something up for you. We do want your feedback today. We would love to know how to best support you moving forward, and just giving us some different feedback on how you felt about today. And y'all, don't forget that we are available for questions through emailing us, cis@hcbe.net. That goes to all 5 of us, Megan, Larry, Lynn, Kristen, and Mike, and we are going to work. So y'all, our email is blown up today, so please be patient with us. We are going to work through those as quickly as we can while we're training and doing these live trainings. So thank you so much for being here, and please fill out that feedback form. Again, we'll email some of this stuff out at the end. So thank y'all, and have a great school year.